Yeah, good morning to you viewers. Here once again, the Burnham Foundation. We are starting a little late today because of some other engagements this morning. However, we missed you on the last fourth Sunday because we were engaged in some activities to commemorate the 90th birth anniversary of Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham. However, today we're here with you, and I hope you members of the public that you will enjoy this program today. With me in the studio today, you won't believe it, but we have Archbishop Dr. Cecil Mercurius. Some time ago, we started a program on Forbes Burnham and religion. And I promised our viewers then that as soon as we get the right person to talk about this idea on Burnham and religion, we will have an additional program. And today I have with me Archbishop Cecil Mercurius in the studio today to talk about Burnham and religion. I want to take this opportunity to invite Dr. Mercurius. You know, Dr. Mercurius is the patriarch of the Guyana United Apostolic Mystical Council. Let me go that over again. He's the patriarch for the Guyana United Apostolic Mystical Council. And, you know, he worked in this country for a number of years. And I know Dr. Mercurius, now Archbishop Mercurius, I want you to take this opportunity to tell our viewers something about yourself and your knowledge, relationship, or association with Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham.
Thanks, first of all, for having me on your program. And good morning to all Guyanese, and to Guyanese, any part of the world that are listening to this program. My relationship with the late Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham, President of Guyana and leader of the People's National Congress, went back a number of years since in my teenage years, went through a UC Koyana. I was introduced to the late Mr. Burnham and Dr. Chedi Jagan. Their homes that as a teens I frequented because I lived one time with Mr. Koyana. So I knew him since that time. And after going abroad and studying and coming back, I was employed in the public service and worked in his office. Started as an administrative assistant, and over the years worked my way up as Chief Community Development Officer and then Permanent Secretary. But there's another part of my relationship with him when it comes to religion, because he had a great concern about the religions of Guyana. And so I will briefly say this. You've heard that I'm the patriarch of the Guyana United Apostolic Mystical Council, which includes the Faithist movement. As a lawyer, Mr. Burnham defended a lot of Guyanese who were charged before the courts for practicing obia. And one of his election nearing promises was to repeal or take those laws off the books because they were discriminatory about religion. What had happened is that because of these laws, the Africans who came to this country could not publicly practice their religion because of the existence of these laws. So that was one of the promises he made. People say he legalized obia. That was not legalizing obia. It was removing a stigma. If you legalize marijuana, what you're saying is you're legalizing its use. When we say we legalize obeah, people feel that he was legalizing the practice of obeah. He was removing the stigma.
Okay.
Mhm.
Now, I wanted to know, because Guyana, as a multi-ethnic kind of society, has a lot of religion. Christianity, Hinduism, Islam, Baha'is, and so on. Now, these organizations practice their kind of religion. And you were making the point that is it that obeism is a kind of a religion for the African man, or is it that the African kind of religion is different to that of obeah?
No, that's a very good question. Let me explain. In West Africa, you see the Akan or the Ashantis. In West Africa, you have the Akamfo, which is the African priest, and you have the Obayifo, which was what we call the obeah man. And there's research done by Bastide in African Civilization, in which he pointed out a very important fact. For example, obeah was generally meant as a practice of the sorcerers.
Mm-hmm.
And what he pointed out was this: the obeah man was a businessman who really was using obi, or tools of his practice, to kill or to cure, to cause people to love one another. It was a ritualistic practice of the Obayifo.
Okay.
That was not the religion. The Obiama was not the priest.
Okay.
The Akamfo was the African priest.
Mm-hmm.
And his role was to mediate between the tribe, his village, and the people. He's the mediator between them and God.
Okay.
And so all the religious practices and rituals
Mm-hmm.
were carried out by the Akamfo,
Mm-hmm.
or the priest.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in that system was built in, it was the rule and the role in the society that the Akamfo, wherever he is, was to challenge the obeah man. In other words, the obeah man was not considered an integral part of the society.
Mm-hmm.
He was always looked at as a sorcerer, and this is in West Africa, and that he was not working in the interest
Of the society.
Of the society. He was a sorcerer. And so what has happened, the practices we heard about people flying and who like sucking and all those things were attributed to the obeah man. When the laws were passed,
Mm-hmm.
banning, the laws were not really passed against the priest as such.
Mm-hmm.
It was this practice that the plantocracy
Mm-hmm.
wanted to stamp out. But then it affected the Akamfo, who was the real priest,
Mm-hmm.
because he too was now classified under this law. So what has happened, obeism was never a religion. It's not a religion of Africa.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So this distinction must be made.
Mm-hmm.
So what Mr. Burnham, well, I did sociology,
Mm-hmm.
and in discussing this, what the laws were aimed to do was to remove this stigma,
Mm-hmm.
to allow the emergence of the African,
priesthood.
the real African priesthood,
Religion.
a religion that was suppressed because of that. And so what happened, you had the churches that have arisen out of that.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody, because of this stigma and this stereotype, any fetus or any African religion that is practiced is still considered obeah. It's an obeah church then,
Okay.
right?
I
That
see.
is a distinction that must be made. There was never an obeah priest. Obeah was never a religion. It was a situation where that
It's
was
a
what
commercial exercise.
Yes, but that was what he was going to allow the emergence of the African religion or worship that was suppressed because of the law.
Well, I want to tell our viewers that we're going to be having call in about 20 minutes, but you would need to focus on this. Listen, I wanted to know as well, Christianity has a large kind of following, Islam a large kind of following around the world, and other religions, Hinduism, a large following around the world. Now, since Forbes have introduced this legislation to provide that opening for the African kind of religion, what has happened since that time to now in terms of the rebirth or the rejuvenation of the African religion?
Well, as I said earlier, this stigma and this stereotype has remained. And that is one of the big problems. Now, when I was asked to be patriarch of this faith, the letter sent to me stated, after much deliberations in 28, there was a search for a spiritual leader, patriarch, with great tenacity, strong theological background, spiritually grounded and so on, to take this faith or this counsel to the next level. Now, the reason for that, there are several reasons. One, some of them on the council were aware of my working in the office of the Prime Minister and what I had done earlier in connection with this movement. That was one. Secondly, what they also need with someone with my theological background in the church, the organized church, to give this movement a theological twist and uplift it. So I like to quote something that Bishop Ejil mentioned a few weeks ago when he was asked a question. He said, in terms of the Pentecostal church, most of the members were uneducated. They were bottom house churches, and they had a bottom house mentality. Now, if I had said that about the Faithist movement, but what he set out to do is what I have set out to do. He set out to remove the Pentecostal faith from the Clapham church and bring it to the higher level. Now, if you notice, that was what I was asked to do. So I have seen my role as being the spokesperson, being the leader, spiritual leader, to give the theological base to the Faithist movement.
Faithist movement.
Now, the word Faithist movement, some of the members hearing me know I say there is no Faithist movement. And so I call the churches, the traditional churches of the peoples, of the traditional people, of the traditional churches, of the African people, is there are the traditional churches of peoples of African ancestry. Because this is it. In the minds, in the hearts, in the psyche of every African person, whether they're in the Faithist movement or not, is to find their identity or their connection with Africa, the motherland. Whether it's Oprah Winfrey, you see it on our shows, whether it's all the other great leaders,
Black stars
around, everybody wants to find that. It's in there, it's in us. And so one of my functions is to lift it, as Bishop Ejil said, lift it and focus it in the right way with all the scriptural background, the history, so that when I speak about it or I project it, I'm speaking with authority.
Interesting. Let me just ask you one other question, Dr. Mercurius. When you consider the religion of men, sometimes I get the impression as though this is a psychological thing. I want to ask you that question. Is it
Now,
psychological?
there are a lot of debates about that, but let me take this point of view. All religions point to a fatherhood of God and the brotherhood of man. Whether it's Hinduism, Mohammedanism, Christianity. those two factors are there. There's a relationship to a god or a deity, and the relationship between that god and deity with man and with fellow men.
Okay.
But I would like to add this. There is a discriminatory approach
Okay.
to Africans and their practices. Let me bring this to you. When you go to the Bible, it says that the first man was created out of African,
Sorry.
our motherland, the African soil, created the first man, Adam, who had to be an African.
Mhm.
The first transplant was by God, who took a rib out of Adam, made Eve, so she was an African woman. And the Bible goes on to state that they were the father and mother of all mankind.
Mhm.
And the book shows that the early nations all came out of Africa. So the motherland could be considered, Africa, the motherland, could be considered the mother of all mankind also. If you look again at another part of the Bible, you find Moses went up on an African mountain, Mount Sinai in Egypt, where he met the God that Christians worship.
I am that I am.
I am that I am.
Mhm.
In certain parts of Africa, it is referred to as Miminida, which means I am that I am day. If you're talking about the Sabbath day,
Mhm.
it was African burning bush. It was an African mountain. This is where he gave his name. This is where he gave the laws and everything. So from a scriptural point of view, the very basis of this entire Christianity is based in Africa. This is where it started.
Mhm.
And so what has happened is that Christianity is not taught in that historical fashion, saying, well, it was in Africa, my motherland,
Mhm.
that this happened.
Mhm.
And then, strange enough, in Psalm 68, verse 30, it says, princes shall come out of Egypt, and Ethiopia shall stretch forth her hand in the last.
Mhm.
Now, Ethiopia is Africa.
Yes.
So that there is so much scripture pointing not only to the origin of man, but the whole foundation of Christianity, the whole foundation of the religion begun and is set in Africa. Even the Virgin Mary had to flee into Egypt
Mhm.
for the safety of Jesus.
Mhm.
And then when you trace the history and the background of both Jesus and the Virgin Mary, it all comes back to a genealogy right back to the forefathers in Africa. But then, at one time in Europe, you had the Madonnan child, which was black. That was removed with a white, but some European countries still have the black Madonna. So the point is that when I am speaking about the churches of African ancestry, I'm not talking about Yoruba and so on. I am tracing back the African faith or religion way back to creation and down.
Okay.
So that I'm proving that the practices, the religion, and everything is not antabantet is called. It has a theological and a cosmological background.
Interesting area. Listen, I wanted to just go on and ask you because I go to different churches and sometimes I attend the Hindu, the Muslim mosque. Sometimes I go to the temple Hindu church and see these practices. What is the difference in terms of practice? The Christian church, the Hindu temple, the Muslim mosque, or the Baha'i kind of congregation.
Right.
Is there any difference?
Each religion has its God or its deity. We may speak of angels or archangels, and now we refer to it as deities. Now, I want to bring something to you and emphasize this. If you go to what you call a fetish church, They use the Bible. They sing the A&M hymns, the Sankeys. They use the cross. They use holy water, right? The altar is set up in some instances just like the organized church. They wear sometimes the same vestments. Abroad, some people who are faithists have gone to universities and got theological degrees. And so what you find is that you go into some faithist church, what we call faithist, which is a traditional church, I'm saying, and you begin to wonder if you're in an Anglican or a Catholic church, because some have 3 altars. They have a high altar, a lower altar where they have Hindu artifacts, you have African, and then you have a mother altar where they have the Virgin Mary and so on. Some places you go, they sing hymns, Catholic hymns, I don't even know. So what you find when we are putting this stigma is that what people are calling the faith and throwing it aside is doing the same rituals, same practices as Christianity. But then, like in America, I go to the temple, I go to the mosque, I participate. As a matter of fact, when there's anything national, I would say, or Evelyn John would say, the Christian prayers. Imam Zatir will say the Muslim, and Pandit, what's his name, he will say the Hindu prayers.
Hindu prayers.
Because as Guyanese, we recognize the 3 religions. There are a lot of similarities, but it would take a lot of time to go into it. Remember, you deal with God, deities, different names, angels. When you sum it up, it's just that you're using different types of rituals. But note, you're using lights and so on all around. And then with the African religion, like with the Hindu religion to some extent, it's nature religions in which there are certain relationships with nature. And so those are some of the similarities and differences. Whether you say Allah the Beneficent One, or you say Jehovah, or you say Krishna, you are still talking about God and a relationship.
Good. Now, Guyana has 3 main kind of religion. We have Islam, Hinduism, and Christianity. In a large sense, the followers of these kind of beliefs tend to feel that they are the right grouping as far as God is concerned. And Forbes Burnham recognized that this was a problem. And he went about to perhaps provide the opportunity, being that these are the 3 main kind of religion in the country, to provide an opportunity for them to celebrate their various days and make those days a holiday. What do you think was Burnham thinking at the time in relation to this religion?
Well, I was part of that. I could tell you let me deal with the first part. As I said, when he was electioneering as a politician and as a lawyer, he recognized, you see, you're talking about anti-colonialism.
Yes.
And so what happened, he realized that in the colonial era, that there were a lot of religious biases that have come through the ages. And that the organized church had they had all the holidays.
Yes.
What he saw it was as bringing Guyana, giving religious freedom and bringing it together, that inevitably you had to recognize the other religions. So you have the religious holidays, and then you had religious programs and the allocated.
Airwaves, right.
In the case of people of African descent, he attempted to do that. This was the problem why you don't have a black religious holiday or African. Among the leaders of what you call the faithist churches or what, they could not decide. They were split in what it is, or what the decision should be based on.
Okay.
And because of that, he wasn't imposing anything on them. They were to
Identify them.
right, because I was there with that,
Hmm.
and that is what has happened. Now, I see it as my role as being the patriarch of the movement. I've already started to work on this, on that, so that we haven't got an agreement that is based on sound arguments to approach the present government and ask them to grant a religious holiday.
For
Now, Mr. Burnham did not achieve that because they weren't together on it. I am working towards getting them together on that, so that that precedent that was set by Mr. Burnham, once this is decided, then the government, whichever government is in power, would then be able to follow that precedent and give an African religious holiday. That's how I see my role and how I see it.
and that will cover everybody.
And well, that
But
will, yeah.
the legislation that was passed provide for the practice of religion,
Yes,
whichever
whichever
faith,
one with your religion.
whether it's the
that-
faithist movement, the Rastafarians, or whatever. What? Well, of course, you were saying that he had an inclination to provide an African kind of holiday.
Yes, not
for-
an inclination. That was part of the program.
part of the program
It was
to give
it
that.
was it was in the faithist movement that failed
Mhm.
itself
Okay.
to come up
With a day.
with decide, well, this is the religious holiday.
Mhm. And so you have taken up that mantra.
Well, it has that has to be done.
Interesting. I wish you luck. Now, Forbes Burnham and but you know, Burnham being the person he is, it's not a situation that anyone can argue with that Forbes Burnham really had the interests of the people of this country at heart,
Right.
in every sphere of activity. Because if you look at his foreign policy, his policy on young people, his policy on economic development, his policy on religion, his policy on trade unionism, whatever. But since we're talking about Burnham and religion today, what do you think, based on this action that he has taken to really liberalize the religious observances and so on? I heard people saying that that isn't anything kind of significant to provide the opportunity for people to have religion. What is your view on that?
What is
That
it?
he didn't provide that, the move to make the religious holidays for the denomination. Some people say that wasn't any significant move. What is your thinking on that?
It is significant because, listen, you had Easter,
Mm-hmm.
which
Christmas.
was based on, let's start with Christmas, which is
Yeah.
Advent.
Yes.
The birth of Jesus, who in Christianity is believed
Mm-hmm.
to be the Son of God, the Savior of the world. You had Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
When you come to Easter, it is his death,
And
his
resurrection.
resurrection, and resurrection.
Mm-hmm.
Those were the two main holidays,
Mm-hmm.
Christian holidays.
Mm-hmm.
There was no question of looking into the fact that in Hinduism, they had a claim to a religious holiday. Nobody thought of the fact that the Muslims had a claim to a religious holiday. Nobody had the thought that there was a claim to African people who have a religious holiday. Religion is one of the most important things in the life of man.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to remove religion from the minds of men at this moment, we'll all crush the world. Religion, Marx said, it is the opium of the people. Some say it is dope.
Mm-hmm.
It is because of our religion that we don't annihilate one another. It is because of our religion that a man at the side of the road who is down and out, looking at you passing with your car and so on, one of the reasons is not only because of the law, one of the reasons why he isn't attacking you is a religious conscience.
Mm-hmm.
So that religion is part of man. Man will never accept the fact that he's here evolved. Some men say they evolved from an animal.
Mm-hmm.
Well, all right. If you think of everybody thinking like that, divorcing themselves from a relationship to a higher something than man, a higher deity, something,
Mm-hmm.
there'll be chaos.
Mm-hmm.
And so, one writer said, unless man above himself can elevate himself, what a poor thing is man.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a book which we can discuss another time. I'm kind of word, outreach yourself each day. If mankind cannot outreach himself each day, or outreach himself, the world is in chaos. And creation is based on outreach.
Yes.
God outreached, whichever creation you talk about is a deity outreaching himself all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so religion is important. And if you were to remove that, you have a problem.
No, but you see, the kind of recognition by Burnham, the recognition part where he said, look, Hindu, Christian had their holidays, and he thought, like you rightly said, he thought it would be a further enhancement of the practice of this kind of religion in the country. So he made it kind of possible for everybody to practice their religion free from fear,
and you had radio
intimidation,
programs,
radio programs on these matters and so on. It was never like that before this happened. That's what I was saying to you. Some people are saying that the move by Burnham was not a significant one, but that's why I ask you whether you think this was a fundamental strategy to really let the people of this country understand the importance of the various practices and those who absorb the various kind of
It is of significance, so that's what I'm pointing out. It is of significance because what he has done, or whoever does it, is not only recognizing a religion or a deity. It is a recognition. The significance is that it allows you in your practice to have a free relationship, to have a relationship with God or deity. Because this is it. This is the problem you had. If two people were to get married, and one was a Catholic, and one wasn't, the one that wasn't had to agree that that child will be brought up in the Catholic faith.
Okay.
Now let us suppose one was
Hindu.
One was a Hindu and one was a Muslim or black and so on. What would have happened is this, that you are imposing something that the person is only going along with it because of circumstance. When that person feels that freedom of worship, what you have done here was enhance the person's spirituality.
Okay, that's that.
You have enhanced the person's spirituality. You have enhanced their experiences, like just now what I was saying to you. That when Africans begin to realize and apply the fact that their religion, the forest man, woman, and their religion comes from Africa, the motherland from which they come from. That's why I have written it over with a twist. Because you say to people, wow, when I said this here on the TV, the 4th of January 2012, I won't call names, intellectuals in this country said they never realized that the whole setting of the Bible took place in Africa. Because in their mind, Egypt is the Middle East and this place. So because when you're able to do that and show the relationship to your God or your deity, it enhances you. You become a different person.
They had other problems that plagued the society then in relation to if persons were from different denomination and religion. For example, attendance of school, acquisition of jobs, and so on. Those were things that were directly affected. You couldn't get a teaching job if you, and some people, to really acquire a job, had to like adopt kind of different names. So this stroke by Forbes Burnham to liberalize the kind of the religion and bring about this infusion of freedom in it by this legislation really brought to fore the point you have just made in relation to religion. I want to tell our viewers that our lines are now open, and those of you who are watching this program, please feel free to call us. Call us. Let us see if you have your concerns, if you have your questions, you have your comments. I think that the Archbishop would be only too willing to answer your questions. I think I see the lines are going. Yeah, morning.
Good morning. Good morning to you, Archbishop, and your handsome host.
Thank you.
Concerning the holidays, what do you think should be the criteria for choosing the day or the incident or whatever concerning the holiday? Now, I'm not a member of AGDA, but I know they have got the 12th of October being Holocaust Day, the slavery, and so what do you think? What is the criteria, or whatever you think should be the main cause for this holiday for Black people?
I would answer it this way. I do not want to say directly what it should be because I take Mr. Burnham's approach. You leave it to the people. It must come from the people. If you are to impose a day, people will only follow it because you have imposed it. When it comes, you see, in anything planning, as a planner, whatever you do must always have the involvement and participation of the people in whatever you're planning, whether it's religion, whether it's a community project. And so I would prefer, which I've started to do, and I've asked certain groups privately to look into this matter and send out proposals.
Okay.
So feel free, AGDA could send in the proposals, you can, and when you send them in, then we can look at them, get a consensus, because only by consensus we can approach the government to get that holiday.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for that answer, and to remind our viewers that those of you who are looking at this program and so touched, you're free to call in. Please feel free to call, ask your question. I see the lines are going again. Morning, you're on the air. Morning, you're on the air.
Morning. I'd like to subscribe to what I was taught when I was small. They say that obey means obedience to God. And a white man once told me that when a black man pray to God, he gets answer faster because of the pigmentation of his skin.
Can't take that. Yeah, let me hear.
But when white people talk, it is last long.
Where is it that obey mean again?
I said, when the black man pray,
Mm-hmm.
he gets a faster answer than any other race because of the pigmentation of his skin.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you're saying, no, you were giving me a definition for obey. What is that obey mean?
Obedience to God.
No, I'm on radio.
It means
Look at
obedience
look
to
at
God.
Channel 9. I'm on
Yeah.
Channel 9.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I asked the Archbishop to. He was saying that obey mean obedience to God.
That isn't so. Obayefa is the name of the practitioner in West Africa. OB were the tools or artifacts that they used. And out of that, we have got the word OB, and this has come from prominent researchers, Bisnat in his commentary, History of Religion in the Caribbean, and Bastide, African Civilization. It doesn't mean obedience to God, because as I said, obia.
Let me take this out of call. Morning, you're on the air. Morning, you're on the air. Hello? Hello, you're on the air. Hello? We missed that call. Okay, yes, you were saying.
Yes, I've heard that before, Um, here again is a question that God hears the black man's prayer quicker than he hears or not. Now, which God are we talking about? Because the point is, in all religions, God is beneficent, God is merciful, God is good. God does not discriminate. Because once you start to think of God, this higher being, as discriminatory, that brings me to a very special something. Now, for example, going into Passover. And when you look at Passover, it's a history of one people coming out of Egypt, right? And it is written in a way that this is a special blessing that this God has given to a special people. Now, when you look in the Bible, there is this question that arises that there is a God who prefers a particular set of people over all the other people on earth, right? Called the chosen people.
Chosen people, right.
All right. But then, when you look at it theologically, it is not consistent with other attributes of God.
Hold there. Let's take this call. Morning, you're on there. You're going to continue that. Morning, you're on the air.
Yes, good morning to you. I guess. It is nice that it is nice now that they're trying to highlight the things that Burnham has done in this country. Because for too long, people are trying to grab the things that Burnham was trying to do and was doing in this country prior to his departure. Like now I'm hearing that about the feed, clothes, and housing Guyana as Jack D initiative.
As Jack D, feed, clothes, and housing Guyana.
When Jack D was born, when Burnham had initiated the feed, clothes, and housing Guyana. Jack D was when Burnham set out to have holidays for the various religions, right? That was so long ago. The things that Burnham was a patriotic Guyanese. Had he been like these thieves that we have here now, those were claiming to be patriots of Guyana, they didn't have no goal to go and say they give it to the friends to think all the registrations that they given the friends, all this frequency would have been used up by this time. All the gold would have been out of the ground, right? So I'm glad that y'all are highlighting the things that Burnham has done and trying to point out how much of a patriot he was and a patriot again and a true Guyanese, unlike these people that call themselves Guyanese right now that is leading this country. Thank you.
All right, thanks for your comments, but I would just like to say that one of the things that we have been doing at the foundation, that's the Burnham and the Foundation, we have been trying to highlight over the past 3 years or so some specific areas of contribution that Burnham made during the time of his government in this country. And Burnham and religion, which we're discussing today, is just one aspect of those various programs that we have addressed. And I am happy that you have been tuned into this program and recognize the efforts that we're making. Oh yes, Archbishop, I see we're getting another call. Morning, you're on the air.
Hi, good morning.
Morning, sir.
I'm sharing with you relative to Burnham's plan for this country with the Barbies River Bridge. It was in his opinion in building it, but they're just carrying through it.
Mm-hmm.
And secondly, with these Chinese and Brazilians that is in this country here, at no time at all, if Mr. Forbes Burnham was alive and he was in power, at no such time that Chinese trying to beat you up in your own country and you cannot speak for your rights because they are with their ruling party. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for calling. Yes, Archbishop, you were making a point.
May I make this point? I'm also a planner, meaning planning for countries and so on. And I've had the opportunity of, in 1972, putting forward at a United Nations conference in Venezuela the plan approach of Guyana at the time. In that paper, and there's a A&R Brutus who used to be at PSM, I don't know if he's in the country, I think he's abroad, accompanied me on that conference. And the paper I wrote was about planning from the bottom to the top, from community development right up to the cabinet or the economic level of planning. It was a holistic approach. The difference then and now is that in planning you can have a holistic approach where you're taking everything. It's like in religion. One of the things about religion is not church. African religion relates to the relationship to God, to the relationship with your grandmother, to the relationship with the community, to the relationship to the herbs, everything. It's holistic. And at that conference, this could be checked out. At the end of it, the Cuban delegation spoke for about 45 minutes. It was highly applauded. But the world's great chief planner said that this will not be accepted by the developing world until they have reached a point. I've lived 36 years after. And President Obama, who was a community activist and organizer, his approach in America, the leading country today in development, is from bottom up.
He adopted the same.
That he has adopted the same principle of the same paper I produced, and it could be checked out in Venezuela in 1972.
Let us take another call, Archbishop. I see the lines are going. Morning, you're on the air.
Yeah, Angie?
Yes, morning,
How
sir.
did I can contribute to this program?
Yes.
The last caller. You see, they try to eliminate Burnham's contribution to this country. Burnham was neither racist. Burnham has made every one of us understood now what is happening to us. He told us that before. You're talking about bridge. The countless amount of things that Burnham have seen. I want to highlight one particular place. There's a place you call Aliki.
Aliki, yes, I know where that is. Yes, Cuba.
Burnham, that is Burnham brainchild. And now they have allowed that community to run right down the line. There is no irrigation, there is not, but there are some families, because when that community started, there were some people who left from Ansgrove up to Pleasance who went, that was a forested area, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And now it is only upheld by a family by name of Wilson, Jack Wilson and his brothers.
Okay.
About two weeks ago, Apno visited that area and they saw that how they have stagnated that place. You see, once you're racist, it cannot come out of you. The last call who talked about Burnham and this person coming, all of the people who went with Burnham, look at the scholars who are alongside Burnham. You can mention them from Ramphal right on to them.
I have one just next to me here.
Yeah, yes, like the bishop there. So what they could talk, this Burnham ensured that he had consultation with those who are capable of consulting in every field.
Yes.
But they have a pack of dunces around them, people who party card and all that. So you accommodate them, but when they're coming on this program, let them speak the fact.
All right. Thank you very much for your call. Okay. Yes, Archbishop.
What I like to say, those who are going to call, this program is confined to religion, but it's gone outside of that.
Religion and looking at other
But
things.
yes, but it's related in a sense, and that is this. I was Chief Community Development Officer for this country, the second, and I was the first Permanent Secretary for Regional Development. So I had to deal with it personally. This is how I will put it. It's a question of having a holistic approach. But one of the key things to planning, and you check this with any reputable planner around the world, in planning for a project to succeed, and this is tested by the United Nations, for a project anywhere to succeed, it must start with the involvement and participation of the people. As the project goes along, they must be part of the review and its adjustment. They must be part of its completion. So at the end of it, maintenance of that project is assured, meaning that it will be taken care of by the because of the participation in all the processes. When the United Nations did a study of billions of dollars they spent around the world, why those projects failed was because some donor gives a project for A, B, or C without the involvement and participation of the people. That is the key to planning, and that too is part of a religious approach, is that people, all plans are for people, and should be carried out by the people. And that is also a theological or religious principle, participation and involvement, which means a democratic approach. And that is where I think some of the problem, but there's something I would like to say in fairness to President Jagdeo and something he has done. Any call?
Yes, I see the lines are going. Morning, you're on the air.
Good morning. I'd like to talk to the Archbishop.
Yeah, you want to talk with the Archbishop. Let me hear you.
Towards the Faithist organization, for a long time that this organization been suppressed
Yes.
by a lot of leaders. Instead of they uplift the organization, some of them were wrangling and tangling and pulling on one another. I don't know if you were able to change that situation in what how they're thinking and how they behave, because they're too long, as I said, that for many things to be done to uplift the organization as even a holiday and all these kind of situations. And I hope that you're able to get a better understanding with them, and that they're able to work with you to make the organization uplift itself, that people could give respect to the organization in many things that they might be carrying on and what's going on.
I'm sure the Archbishop will be willing to.
Thank you for
answer
that question. As I said earlier, when I was asked to be patriarch, one of the requirements or things they asked me to do was to take the faith to the next level, and that's why I quoted Bishop Edgell, who had the same problem in the Pentecostal, and he explained what the problem was, and that his task was to take it to the second level or higher level. Now I'll tell you some of the achievements already. Unification of the faith. Since Mr. Burnham's time, he was trying to get the faith, the entire movement,
The Faithist movement.
to come under one religious head. And that is why it was started at Eccles. Since I have taken over as patriarch, I've worked along with those at the in the faith in Eccles, St. Peter's Apostolic Church, Queen Mother, Waveney Michael, Elder Goodman, and others who were there from the inception, Elder King. Now, what we have done, we have now got approval from the faith for Eccles to be the cathedral of the faith, so that is unifying it in its religious structure and otherwise. We have now got an emblem of the faith, and this emblem of the faith is the all-seeing eye in the Star of David. And this is very important because this emblem of the faith gives an idea, or says locally, internationally, some important things about the faith. That is, the faith believes, the practitioners believe in the omnipotence of God, the omniscience of God, and the omnipresence of God. That is a basis in almost all religions. And so when it says faith, it's faith that God is ever present, He's all powerful, and His wisdom is guiding us and carrying us. The Star of David is a star of protection, It binds earth and heaven. You say, Our Father who art in heaven, be thy name, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. It has other meanings. So that too, we have been able to have an emblem of the faith, and you pass an Eccles, the church, you'll see there, and all the other churches will have that. What we have also done is that we now have in our holy orders, that is ordinations and consecration. I've done some of that, and so now you have the GOMC has a certificate signed by me when you're ordained or you're consecrated. My signature on that is important because it's the apostolic faith, and I come under the apostolic lineage of the church, similar to the Christian, similar to the Catholic or Anglican, the Ethiopian Orthodox or what, Russian Orthodox. We come under that lineage. So when I sign that and give you that certificate, you can take it anywhere. I've also appointed ambassador of the faith because my vision is to expand it locally in the Caribbean region and internationally. And so to do that, to have, Bible tells about being an ambassador of Christ, I say ambassador of the faith, although I say the faith refers to the traditional churches, so that I will have people out there who would be able to represent it. Another most important thing is an organization called WOZAM. When I came here through Dr. Jagdeo, I trained 700 Christian, Muslim, and Hindu priests in domestic violence, put up a report. And in my presentation, when I wrote him first that I would establish in this country, as a follow-up to that, an organization called Women of Sacred Motherhood. I have done that in the Faithist movement, already has that, as well as I said I could establish the first Guyana Nonviolence Corps. We have already started a small school to train people theologically and otherwise, and that is housed at an Aubrey Barker Drive at a church called Jehovah's School of Truth. And the head of that church is a Bishop Williams, and my ministry, which is the outreach ministry, is working along with that to establish a theological school for the faith. But not only a theological training, but also involving people like Brother Tommy Payne to teach history, so that you will know the history that we have come along. So those are, we have a Mothers Union. There are certain things that have been done already.
4 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So Bishop, I was just distracted a little bit. I think that these are all things based on the question that was asked that you have been doing over the past years. We just have about 3 minutes remaining program time. So I see the lines are going. Good morning, you're on the air.
Hello, good morning, sir.
Morning, sir.
Lord, you gotta give me some more time, right? Now, concerning the word, I mean, how old is the brother?
Who's that?
The other brother there,
next to me?
Yeah. 81.
Fairly, 80 and 1, he said.
61.
81.
81.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, could he give me an idea when was English language first came into being?
When English language
first written.
Yeah.
I won't be able to. I won't be able to answer
it's
that.
long before you born, anyway.
Yes, but I could find out that from my sister.
No, I didn't interested in that. I just want to make a point.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, the Bible was translated from the original language into English language, because English language, as we know, is not a complete language, right?
Yes.
God, the Bible said that we were born in sin and shaped in iniquity.
Mm-hmm.
He never said nothing. Do you ever read any part of the Bible was said about opium?
I have never seen.
I have never read anything in the Bible.
When Moses brought the children of Egypt, did he say that they walk opium against sea, or they said they done evil?
Now, that is interesting, and let me push forward, and so I'm glad you raised that.
Let's just finish, because we don't want to kill your time.
Yes,
but let me give you this.
All right.
Go to your computer and look for the word smudging.
Uh-huh.
What you will find, it will tell you about herbs that you use to clean out your house,
Yeah.
to smoke it out, right?
Yeah.
When it is done by black people or ordinary, it's called obia, right?
Yeah.
When it is done by the white man, it is called smudging. If you live in the United States of America and you're selling a $5 million, $3 million property, one of the advertisements, and you can check this out, is that they will smudge it for you, meaning they will smoke it out with these herbs, sage and other herbs. But when you do it, it is called what? Obia. So the point, I'm answering your question directly there,
Yeah.
that what is called, for example, we thief, the other person embezzles, right? So that labels can be put on things, and that is what I started by saying. Labels have been put on things that are done by people in the faithist movement, that are done by other words, labels are put on it. But if you set out to look at the rituals that are practiced in the churches are the same rituals that are done in the Christian churches or other churches.
Yeah.
But it's the labels that you put on it. What we are setting out to do is remove those labels and to show that when you're doing your house cleaning or smudging, it's done by the others but under another name. Go to your computer, everybody listening, and look up the word smudging.
Yeah, but the point is
Yes.
that the Bible said that we were born made in his own image and likeness.
Yes.
Good. If we are in his image and likeness, and he said that we were born in sin and shaped in iniquity. Remember Adam's sin, the place where he lose the kingdom. But we were born in that sin because of Adam, but we are shaped in iniquity. Now, if we are made in the likeness and image of God, therefore he is iniquity. And if they claiming that obia is iniquity, and obia is a powerful stuff because it deals with spiritual aspect, highly spiritual aspect, like Mr. QC Kwayano, will never light a candle, but he could have moved, you know. Therefore, it tells you that God is like us. Let me look at it from the past by.
Well, the Archbishop going to do.
Now, just now. Now, if you go to the wall and you knock your drum, your own brother going to tell you, you're doing obia. But the Indian going to go and kill a fowl, kill a pig, squeeze the thing, and he doing the work. The Chinese man going to come, he going to offer his sacrifice, and he doing the work. The Portuguese man going to come, and he going to offer his sacrifice because this is his way of worship, and he going to do his work. And any man going to come and do their thing, but they going to call it a work. And even America, if you come practice, come and see me, they won't call you the man. But they got legally on the people on the phone line telling you, call 1-800 for your what you call it, CFA, no? for your free reading, no? something of the sort.
All right. I think we're running out of time. Yeah. Anyway.
Is iniquity if they want to call it in the part today? You got to distinguish the word iniquity from this word obia. And what is obia? And where did it came from? If it was from creation.
Well, I heard your point, but I'm sorry we really can't go much further.
Okay.
Or we're out of time, but I hope that we can address this question of religion again. Today's program was predominantly Burnham and religion, but we have drifted in other areas, and I trust that we have been able to satisfy.
But it's still based on Burnham because that is what Burnham believes, and that is what he legalized.
Yeah.
And what he believes in is spiritual aspects, and that is spiritual aspect.
I think the Archbishop he outlined the difference between obia and the.
I outlined something to you earlier saying.
But if you don't have a word as obia, you don't have nothing like
Probably,
obia either.
if you were following the program from the beginning, you would have learned that I made the distinction between the Obayefa and the Akamfo. Another time we'll be able to do this because we're out of time.
Yeah.
And
all right.
Thanks for all the calls and the opportunity
Yeah.
again.
All right, thank you, our viewers. Until the fourth Sunday of next month, we're once again coming to you, State of the Nation from the Burnham Foundation. I'm your host, Clayton Hines. Today with me in the studio was Mr. Archbishop Cecil Mercurius, a reputable public servant of no mean repute. Thank you very much. Why does